and welcome to another Biddle. No, I'm not Rocco. People call me Cubicle Nate or Nathan or hey, that dude with the big goofy nose. Whichever works. I don't really care. Uh, but we're set out here to have a chat about tech around the virtual water cooler. Anything that is Linux, technology, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I do want to thank Rocco for starting the Biddle community, where I truly felt like a member of the nicest group of encouraging and uplifting people with just a cornucopia of abilities and skills and friendliness. Because some of us do have social issues. I might be one of them, and don't always say the right things all the time. But I do try, and and we got a great group here today. And I want to appreciate all of you for showing up, and also in the YouTube chat as well. I think it's fun to actually see what people say. Although I have a hard time actually following everything. I find that that's a task in and of itself. Trying to speak and read and manage all these little fun things. But it's fun. I enjoy it. And hey, if I mess it up a little bit, I'm okay with that.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's all good.
So I kicked off a poll earlier this week in the Biddle Telegram. It was so Ubuntu 21.04 launched, and I know we're all very excited about that. And now, can you actually, Monica? Can you tell me how do you say that? Hirtsuit?
Hirsute hippo.
Okay. All right. So So which distribution are people most excited for? They could choose multiple, because I think it's kind of fun to be able to choose multiple. And so according to now there are only 22 votes. I figured I'd get at least more than that. But so it looks like Ubuntu proper and Kubuntu are the two that most people are most excited for, and then with each got 45%. So because they can vote for multiple, whatever. And then Ubuntu Mate after that, and then next in line was Lubuntu.
I mean, wait, I love all the Ubuntus.
Of course, you can love them all.
Equally.
But which one do you
They're
use
like
on your
your
desktop
children.
right now? Which one are you using right now?
Ubuntu Mate.
See, there we go. Hey, I like green. Green's
See,
good.
I think you would appreciate the team green. So
I do have an iMac G5. Well, actually, it died, but I was running Ubuntu Mate on that one before it kicked the bucket. So
nice.
But it's not. The new ones are not even available now. New PowerPC versions. I think that's done.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, I didn't get a chance to actually test any of the Ubuntus yet. I downloaded and didn't get anywhere. So I totally rockoed that. So
It's okay.
what can you do?
It is
But
okay.
I wanted to open it up for discussion. That wasn't a slight against Rocco. I love Rocco. Rocco's the reason I'm here. So I want to open up the discussion though. Anyone who says, like, if anyone's running any of the Ubuntu's, any of the 2104, what's your experience so far? Monica, I want to put you last in this discussion because I think you're going to have the most to say. And then right before you is going to be Big Pod because he's going to have a lot to say. So I want to make sure we get anybody else who wants to jump in there, if Adam or Vash, Vince, Peter, anybody who has been running it, I don't care. Just hop right in and let's have ourselves an Ubuntu chat. Now, I'm not running it at all, but I do appreciate the Ubuntus, and I use snaps all the time, like right now. Yep. So, and does anyone have anyone want to kick off anything? Not you, Big Pod.
Yeah, I'm testing Ubuntu Mate right now, and seems to be very, very polished. Quite impressive, I must say. And they've added quite a few little extras that people might appreciate when it comes to folder colors or accent colors and all that sort of thing. Quite nice. So
it's part of the Yaru theme or Yaru theme. However you say that. Is it like they've got that kind of polish?
Yeah, they've got the Yaru theme, but you can add some accent colors to the different colors to the Yaru themes when it comes to the folders and also the highlights on the file manager and things like that. So it's quite nice little additions, I must say, just to, I don't know, what can you say, spruce it up a little bit. So it looks good so far.
That's good. What would you say is so you said talking about the polish, but what else would you say is an outstanding feature or something like, let's say you're selling it to me, use Ubuntu Mate, try Ubuntu Mate. What would be the key feature right now that you would say really makes Mate something special? I think they're all special. I just want to hear what your opinion is.
I think the actual welcome screen. I think it is. Is it the welcome screen that they've got a
Okay.
lot? They've introduced a lot of things into that can sort of direct you in how to use the system itself, and it takes you through it. I think it's always been there, but they've got the addition of adding, installing the extra themes and extra things that might just impress you that little bit more.
Okay.
I think the welcome screen they've got those few more additions. I think also their software boutique speaks for itself as well. You can, they've got a lot of curated applications that you can, do a bulk queue and just install everything with one click. I think it's, very impressive.
So would you say it's the approachability then that they've baked into it that sets it apart? Because you're talking
Yeah, I
about the
think
themes
so.
and everything. Okay. All right. Well, I like that.
Yeah.
Is it
Well,
anybody
I
else?
think it's also
Go ahead.
I think it's
No.
also the layouts as well. They've got all the layouts, and I think they've done a bit more fine tuning with the layouts as well. So they're looking quite nice also. So yeah, I think they've
I,
added some more layouts. I think.
I don't know who it was. I can't recall, but somebody was talking to me that they were having like the integration of the Yaru theme into Mate. I guess was a lot of work. I don't know who it was that said that, but I heard it someplace. Maybe I didn't hear it. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I dreamt it. I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Hmm.
Well, thank you very much, Colin. I appreciate that that take. Does anybody else have anything you want to throw in there on Ubuntu that they've tried the new Ubuntu 21.04? Any of them? Have they hopped, had some fun? If not, I think Big Pot he came back in. You can if no one else is going to jump in, Big Pot, I guess you can go, but Monica has to go last.
Well, I've been running 20 out of 4 since January.
Okay.
Been doing the testing the use way, and besides the networking problem, which I did figure out and fix, I didn't have any problems at all, and work great. The Yaro Mate team is amazing, and again, I gotta say thanks to the Yaro team for helping us out with this. And I don't know, Ubuntu Mate is amazing. Maybe if you don't like green, you can change colors. We have, I believe, 16 different colors. That is, I actually don't run the green version. I believe, currently I run the orange one. I just wanted to change up a bit. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, personally, I like green. Like green is kind of my jam dog, but that's because the whole openSUSE thing. So I have to. That's just the way I roll. But well, cool.
well, I wanted to change it up a bit.
Now what?
Otherwise, I'm only running green.
So you've been doing testing on Ubuntu Mate. So what are the things you've been
Yeah.
doing with Ubuntu Mate that you should share
Well,
with the class?
I just ran it like how I normally use it. So to test how it works in normal user environment, I didn't really stress test it. I was just doing so if it broke while I normally used it, that would be like the big problem, and it didn't happen. So yay,
That's
it
very
was alive.
Now, were you early on in the testing process? Did you ever have any builds that just didn't run, or or were by the time you started testing the builds, were they pretty much rocking and rolling?
When I installed, it was already running.
Okay.
Great. I think it was in January when I installed it, or could be before. I always go to the latest version sooner or
Okay.
later.
I'd like to throw in. I'll tell you what would look nice for Ubuntu Mate if they whoever works on the default wallpaper, if they were to make the same wallpaper with the same accent colors as the folder,
There
that would be
should be.
impressive.
There should be.
Wallpapers,
I believe so.
couldn't find any. I downloaded some community ones, but they weren't in there.
I
But that
believe
would
so. It
be
should be.
Hmm.
Let me check.
okay.
No, and that's okay. Am I un?
Yes, you are, Monica.
Okay,
Can
Yes, you are.
hear you
perfect,
loud and
perfect.
clear.
Yay! Well, I'm glad you all didn't get to hear my quick 2-minute conversation with my mom when I logged off there. But I know that we really do want to have kind of more of a community artwork kind of focus. But for that, that'll be something that, especially if we can kind of play with that for 2110, because like me, I personally use the teal accent colors. I mean, I do love green, but I really love the combination of blue and green even more. And so that might be something that we could possibly tweak with or play with for the next one to see if we can get that, if that could be done by the next LTS.
Uh, Let me jump in. Colin, there should be, if you go into the change of the, go set the wallpaper, there should be different colors wallpapers. All
Really?
the
Oh,
main ones. At least from what I see I have blue
Oh,
one, green one, orange one, red one. Basically, the
yeah.
colors I installed. It might if you
oh,
change
let me
before
check that
that,
out.
change
Yeah.
the wallpaper. It will not automatically change it when you download, but
Didn't see
uh,
that. I'll check it out. I'll open it up.
it should be there. At least it is for me.
Or if nothing else, you can probably take the image that you like, import it into GIMP, and then you can just change the hue to whatever you like. I'm saying, if if the if the spirit moves you, you can go ahead and do that. So I did see that on the poll that Ubuntu Kylin or Chillin, or I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. I've heard both. That nobody was looking forward to that. No, what is that? Is it what's the desktop for that?
I think
UKUU, I believe it's called. It's
Yeah,
based
UKUI.
UKUI. I believe it's actually
I mean,
based
it's
on
beautiful.
Mate, like loosely based on Mate, but it is very beautiful, very that.
hmm And I think it's just more that it might be just since the majority of users are primary Chinese language speakers, then
Okay,
it's I think it's more of a language thing than anything else. But they just got their 2104. They just got theirs up and going. So and Budgie already, speaking of flavors, Budgie already has their Raspberry Pi image for 2104
excellent.
out. Overachievers. So, but it's really exciting to see more flavors also doing the Raspberry Pi images. And I know for Mate that's something that will be happening soon. So
Yeah.
So so I'm curious from the from Ubuntu, do they have specific ARM-based servers that do the compiling or whatever? How do they compile a Raspberry Pi version?
I believe you can compile the version itself on any system because basically just a rootfs image. But packages are being compiled, as far as I know, on separate ARM servers in Canonical's build farm.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's as much as I know from what I see from outside.
That sounds good. I am mostly the people person, so I'm still
Yeah,
learning all of these things.
Well,
So
we all have our place in our little techie
yeah.
world. So, yeah, I just was just curious as to how that worked, or whatever.
Well, as far as I'm aware, you could do image from on any system because it is just a rootfs container. You basically could copy any kind of image and turn it into ARM image if you put proper packages into it.
So Big Pot, are you doing any of the testing on other architectures like ARM? Are you doing any other, or just
No,
just
I
x86?
only have x86 devices.
Okay.
I
Is
do
anybody
wish I
here?
had proper ARM devices besides phones.
Does anybody here play with any ARM-based devices in Linux? 'Cause actually, that's a good. I think it'll be a good segue here. I'm just curious to know, like,
Ooh.
if people
So
are.
I have Raspberry Pis, or one Raspberry Pi 4 that I
Oh,
just
nice.
recently
Raspberry.
got, and just tested out Manjaro on it though.
Okay.
Cool.
And what have you been doing with it?
I have a Raspberry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Thomas.
You're good.
I've
Latency.
okay. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but what kind of things do you do with your Raspberry Pi? I'm just curious.
So far, I just use it for like I just set up a what's it called? Their network monitor on it. So I'm using it as a right now just to monitor the network on Manjaro.
Okay.
And then I have I'm looking at projects and stuff. I may want to further, down the road, and considering turning it into either turning into a NAS type thing, so that I can, storage thing. I have a full size computer down here that does that right now, but if I can make it smaller and set it off somewhere else, so it's, out of, all over the place, outside of the room or whatever, that'd be great. Another thing I do also have a micro SD that has Kali Linux on it, and I've been using that, and I've been using that for on the Pi to teach myself, still learning Python, and I'm learning a little bit of the hacking side of things, the pen testing. So I've been studying for my EJBT, which is the e-learning junior pen testing certification. So I'm using the Pi for that.
Oh, well, that's very cool. Um, is there anything else you use the Pi for, or is it just for network? So you all business then with the Pi is what you're saying?
For right now, it's all business for me. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking at the little things that they have on there. You can make little robots. Yeah, I want to also get a 3D printer, and
Okay.
might use the Pi for that side of things as well. And there's so many things you can do with them. I may end up getting more than one Pi. Who knows?
I think that Raspberry Pis are kind of like Pringles potato chips. It's hard to stop at one.
Yeah, that's what I've
Also,
heard.
they're stackable.
Yep.
Like a
I know.
like a
I've got
Pringle.
mine in a it's right here in this little tiny rinky-dinky case, and it is this is a aluminum case, so it doesn't have any fans or anything like that. So it's passive cooling. And it's a lot of fun just to tinker with that little thing. I mean, because it's easy to test different versions of Linux on it. So you throw on a different version, a micro SD, and throw it in there. As long as it's ARM-based, a distro that can handle ARM. Looks like I don't think Mint can do right now, if I remember correctly. I don't think Mint has an ARM version of their distro yet. But you can do any of the Ubuntu's. You can do Manjaro, obviously Raspbian. They have another one's called Diet Pi, which is a lighter version of Raspbian. Kali Linux, obviously, is another one you can use on it, and there's more, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun little toy to tinker with, something to keep me entertained while I'm working, so to speak. I work from home, and luckily for me, I'm no longer in a call queue. I'm now a senior analyst for the bank instead of just a regular analyst. I got moved up.
Cool.
So
Yay.
now I just use the queue, and I make calls when I need to.
So
no
is that
longer in
because
the call.
are you a senior now because of the gray in your beard? Is that how you got that position, or?
That was just because I'm getting old. This
Oh,
thing,
okay.
and
I was.
and
So
dealing
basically,
with
that's
those
how
people
we
that
get
don't
the
know
good
anything about
jobs. We
tech.
just get some gray. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I can't get any gray up here.
No.
Well,
So
I can't
it all
get any
migrated
gray down
down.
here, so it's all fair.
It just migrated to the beard. It was like, have any up there? All right, to the beard to go. But
It
this is
happens. It
from
kind
no,
of
this is
just slips down. That's all good.
all this is from the dealing with people that don't know the first thing about technology when you're trying to fix their technology
Yes.
issues. But then they act like they know everything. But I already did this, and this. Did you really? Let's do it. It works. That's because you didn't do it.
So Thomas, you have Raspberry Pi that you're doing stuff with. Is it all
So I
party
have-
or only business? Like party in the front?
It's a little bit of both. I have a Raspberry Pi 8 and I am using it to run something called Octopi,
Okay.
which allows me to remotely manage my 3D printer back here. So I can just like send a file to it, and it will just like whenever I want immediately start printing, and I can. I have a webcam pointed at it, so I can actually watch the 3D print in process. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with 3D printing, you have to make a file called a G-code file. And the 3D printer is able to read that, and it follows the instructions in that in order to print. And you can also use that G-code in order to see like how the printing process will go. So the Octopi is able to give me a visualizer to see like, okay, this is what layer you're on out of how many layers you have to do, and where at in that layer I am, and all that other fancy stuff. So it's nice to monitor my 3D prints. I also have a Rock Pro 64 4K, and I got both of them because I was wanting to develop an ARM version of Draugr OS, because ARM computers are becoming more and more popular and more powerful. So it's only a matter of time before, a Doom game that was just released runs on ARM. So I was trying to do that, and developing for ARM from scratch is hard to do when you're used to x86 and Python code, where you're platform independent. So I'm learning from scratch, and it's taking a lot longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, I have my kids doing Scratch too. So
Sounds like you're doing Linux from scratch.
Not quite, but definitely heading in that direction at this point. Because so I'm used to on not Windows, I'm sorry, on like x86 systems. I'm used to on them. You have a partition on your hard drive, and that's where your bootloader lives. And you can swap out that bootloader however much you want to. On ARM, that is not the case. There's like a special flash chip that holds your bootloader, and that is the only chip that holds the bootloader. You can't have a bootloader in a separate partition, and it's annoying because certain ARM chips can only work with certain bootloaders, and it's stupid, and I hate it. I want it to be more like x86, where it doesn't matter what my bootloader is. I can just toss a bootloader on there, and as long as it supports the CPU architecture, I am good to go, basically, in a nutshell.
Now, one of the issues with ARM, at least my experience has been, that you have all these different ARM platforms. So if Draugr OS, I'm just asking here, if Draugr OS is going to start supporting ARM, is it going to be a flavor of ARM in particular, or is this just kind of we're experimenting, we're just seeing how things work in the lab at this point?
Right now, it's just experimenting in a lab kind of thing.
Okay.
The plan for it is I want to distribute it in a zip file. And when you extract the zip file, because Etcher won't be able to read it correctly, you get an image file and a Python file. And you run the Python file, and it pops up a little terminal window and asks what device you're going to be flashing it to. And you tell it which one, and you give it certain other configuration options. Basically, you go through the install process in the Python script, and it configures the image file for you, putting the bootloader you need, configuring your user, setting the host name, all of that fancy installation stuff. And then you just take that modified image file, flash it to your SD card, it boots up, and you're good to go. And that should allow me to, for instance, have like a JSON file hosted on the web, and it downloads that when you run that Python file, and sort of dynamically allows me to add support for other ARM devices. So I could, for instance, at initial release support Rock Pro 64 and Raspberry Pi 4, but later down the line support NVIDIA Jetson Nano, Odroid, Rock Pi, you name it just by modifying a JSON file. Um, I am well aware at this point that that's not going to work because different ARM devices need different kernels,
Yeah.
and it's a pain, and I hate it, but that's the way it's going. And I really want to find a way to be able to circumvent all of that and just have this nice, streamlined installation process for as many ARM devices as feasible.
You will have
And
a hard time doing that.
yeah, I
That
learned
that
that the hard way.
that is because how ARM is fragmented right now, because it is all open and you can do whatever you want with it. You basically the creator of the CPU basically can leave stuff out, which isn't a problem. Problem is if it adds different stuff in, so you don't have the proper modules for that, and that's a problem. And
Yeah.
that's why for example, even though it's ARM, they have such a hard time getting Mac M1 processors running Linux natively because
Mhm.
it is ARM technically, but it's so different than what we see as ARM that it won't be able to run properly unless you do a lot of work and prepare special kernel modules for it. And that's why on some devices, some ARM devices, you might get RPi images working because either they use the same processor or the subset of features a Raspberry Pi processor uses, it is also, at least some of them are being used on that processor. That is a big problem in ARM, and that's one of the reasons why I think ARM will have a harder time being proper architecture for someone for like to buy stuff on ARM besides novelty special project like phones and some novelty project like Raspberry Pis where you have very specific items because who will want to support 15 different SKUs of processors, SKUs of devices. Like for example, Dell, even if they sell a single laptop like Dell XPS 13, that has like 5 different processors. If if they have to support 5 different operating systems that they support, they won't do that. That's that's crazy. They will just throw an Intel or AMD CPU in it because
Right.
x86 is generally the same no matter uh, what processor you put in.
Yeah, I do think that's kind of my problem with ARM in general is that there's too many ARM
Yeah.
platforms to target. Some people say, well, ARM's taking over. Maybe, maybe someday.
I feel like if ARM does end up taking over, then it has a long way to go in that sort of cross compatibility between CPUs. Um, I think it needs to become more like x86 in that it has a sort of like a core base that is unmodifiable. You
It's a
cannot
standard.
remove anything from this. This is what you have. Anything that has this core will run on it. You don't need to work with any of the extras. You can add extras that something like, for instance, code made by the developer of that CPU, they could write code for that CPU, like, I don't know, a UEFI thing. Um, they
Uh,
could do that. That takes advantage of that extra functionality, but you don't have to use that extra functionality.
I don't think that will be as
ARM, I would have to say my name's Mark. For those that don't know me,
Hi,
hope
Mark.
everyone's doing good. Hey,
Welcome.
how are you, bud? Yeah, thank you for having me back. Um, I would say with the direction of current computing today, I think we're going to see less and less x86 64 x86 processors because we're going to have I think we're going to have less and less custom builds, and I know this is controversial, but those that do a custom build will be relegated to x86 hardware. You're going to have a lot I think I agree with you that it's really good for mobile because it's meant for kind of SoC um, system on a chip. ARM has always been kind of mobile oriented
Yeah.
as a processor, but it's also very power efficient. I do think you're going to see some Windows based computers come out with ARM inside, but to steal from Intel a little bit, with ARM inside, but I'm not so sure it'll completely eliminate like professional rigs for people that are creative and whatnot as far as that goes. But I do think you're going to see systems get just smaller. I mean, we're all already seeing a lot of like laptops for under $300. Uh, that are for the general everyday user, they're fine. You know, but single board computers are getting really, really popular with Raspberry Pi and everything too. The direction I see the market going is not having the upgradable CPUs and just having
Yes.
everything
I mean,
soldered
I'll
on.
buy it if it's
Yeah.
cheaper.
What
Well,
I want to see
reality
is
will be go ahead.
a computer that runs both x86 and ARM natively.
Cool. How
That
about
would
you
be
do that?
cool.
That will be hard thing to get.
I've had an
Dream big.
idea for a long time, but it's not feasible. Like literally just make like PCIe add-in cards. That one
Yeah.
that has an ARM processor on it as a co-processor, another one that has an x86 processor on it as a co-processor, and they can run using just PCIe power. So there's low power for x86, pretty high power for ARM, and then you just slot that in, and then you just need to add kernel support for being able to run arbitrary code on that ARM or x86 add-in processor. I
ARM 86.
understand. Well, the ARM one you would slot into an x86 system. The x86 one you would slot into an ARM system. The idea behind it is you get the CPU architecture you don't have. I understand already that this is extremely, extremely impractical and extremely, extremely expensive.
You know what?
But
That's actually not that far. That's not that crazy actually when you think about it. So, because I'm old, there is anyone familiar with the BBC Micro here? Does anybody know what that is?
Mhm. Yeah.
I know of it. I haven't played
Okay.
with
know of it, never used it.
All right. Now, I never used one, but I find them extremely fascinating old computers.
Yeah.
So they had this expansion bus on them so they could take advantage of other architectures. So what someone has done recently is actually popped in a Raspberry Pi Zero, I think it was, into the expansion, and so it can take advantage this almost 40-year-old machine can take advantage of the Raspberry Pi architecture. So I think it's interesting. I don't know how practical it is, but
Not much.
it's interesting. It's an interesting thought process. And also I do
It's
know
kind
that
of wasteful.
maybe I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. But then I kind of wonder, maybe actually Thomas is not too far off track. I mean, maybe you could pop maybe not I mean, okay, x86 machines as far as I'm concerned, they're becoming more energy efficient and faster. Maybe not exponentially faster, but they are becoming more energy efficient. And ARM is becoming more powerful, but it's still maintaining that energy efficiency. Although my Pi 4 gets kind of toasty, so there is that.
Yeah.
However, it still doesn't require a fan for what I'm using with it. But I do wonder if it's only a matter of time. I mean, when there could be some future convergence of the architectures for all we know. We don't know what's coming down the pike. I mean, there could be someone correct me if that understands hardware better than I do, but the evolution of the x86 architecture, it has added other features, components, and such into it
Yeah,
over time, and so it can speak. So it doesn't just speak the CISC, the complex instruction code anymore. It does actually speak RISC as well, from what
yeah.
I understand. But someone please correct me if I'm wrong on it. These are things I've read some time ago, and I read lots of things, and I don't necessarily fully understand them all the time. So this is why I like having these discussions. So Big Pot, you said you want to say something on that.
Well, the whole idea of we're gonna have laptops with ARM is true because sooner or later we will switch to ARM full time because there'll only be one computer, really. Sooner or later everything will become cloud, everything will become servers because reality is most people use browser for most stuff. So sooner or later everything will become in one way or another just a workload somewhere in a browser or somewhere you connect to, and you will just deal with the front end to that. Many
That
comp
that is the way it's going.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
I'm
I'm going to
I
fight
know
that the whole
MS.
way.
I'm sorry. I won't let him finish. My bad.
a lot
Uh,
of companies already have systems in place to really do that. Their system, uh, the name right now escapes me, where you basically use dummy computers. It's a bit better than dummy terminals. Just it's a computer, or it can be a really low power computer, and you connect to a server that is running virtualized environment, and there you can work securely, even though you have your own computer at the same time. And it is what a lot of companies do nowadays, especially for secure stuff like where their information that cannot leave the confines of the server room. They just connect into the server room itself, and so that will be what will lead the way. Then browser applications. So reality is in next few years, desktops and laptops will become less and less useful as they are seen now, and that is a day I am at the same time happy and afraid of because I love my laptop as it is now. But on the other hand, as I said, the problem with ARM is that there is no standardization. And if let's say Dell sold a laptop, let's say laptop with 4 cores, 6 cores, with that speed and other speed, it would be if that meant running 4 different processors. That would mean running 4 different processors. That might even mean 2 different brands, which could mean they would need to use multiple operating systems really because they will need to create separate kernels for that. So we will need certain standardization in ARM. That's why phones are so good with ARM because only the creators of the phone control the operating system, at least in most cases. And they in the one device that operating system goes, there goes only one type of processor. That is what is so. That's why
you know,
ARM works for
I,
phones.
I'm gonna actually go ahead and have to respectfully disagree with you on that, Big Pot. So, um, and Mitchell, he actually says in the chat, he says they in his industry, finance and something else, things are moving away from the cloud services, at least on the back end, going back to more in house. And actually,
Yes,
I've noticed that a lot. There's a lot more of things moving away from the cloud. I mean, I think it seems like
cloud
it's cyclical. See, 'cause like
cloud isn't just what present as cloud like Azure, uh, Google Cloud
AWS.
Platform, AWS. Cloud is also what you have. Reality is anything where the servers aren't exposed really, where you just see one big resources group and you just pull resources down. whether it be administrators, whether it be just users. That can be considered cloud. There is a difference between public cloud, which is what AWS, Azure, GCP are, and private cloud, which is big pools of resources you have in your own company, or you just rent out at a data center maybe kilometers away or 100 kilometers away, or even 1,000 kilometers, just to protect yourself from disasters, because large-scale disasters are a problem.
Does anybody else have anything like they want to contribute on the ARM thing as far as like what they're doing with Raspberry Pi? Are they running like Ubuntu Mate? Because I want to keep that tied in, or running Ubuntu on the Raspberry Pi or anything like that.
I am. I jumped in the ARM thing finally because there's a lot of Raspberry Pis in our house, but they're more like what's running our home automation and things. But I finally got my own. I got a one of the Raspberry 400s when it came out, and I am running Groovy Gorilla on that. I will be running Hirsute Hippo once we build that, which will probably be in the coming weeks. It is sometimes I forget that it is just this little computer that could tucked into the keyboard, because I'll be doing something now and I'll be like, well, this is a little bit slow. And then I have to remember I'm not on my super powered desktop.
Right.
I'm on my little Raspberry Pi 400. And that is so much fun. So, and it's really great to see how well the Ubuntu releases do on that. So I think I'm also going to be doing some testing and trying out the, like I said, the new budgie image. So yeah, and it's so easy because you just load up a bunch of little SD cards and it's just
You just swap them out.
If I may try, because I always got to slip these things in here. If you the openSUSE tumbleweed image for the Pi 4 and 400 are actually really, really, really good. I'm using it.
Cool.
I'm using one. I got a Pi 4 that's set up. I think I said this last week too, so forgive me. But there's a Pi as my computers my for my kids' home education. It's a it's a computer. We have all our memory work on there, so we can actually see. Like I've created a lot of products and such that we use for memorizing things, and so that's all on the Pi 4.
Cool.
So it I got a little like a remote keyboard for it, but it's the same image as the Pi 400, so it's using the same same build. But anyway, it works great. Like I'm actually surprised how well it works. It's actually like probably like a 10-year-old x86 machine, like as far as performance goes. It's pretty impressive. It does get a little bit warm with running plasma, but it doesn't. I haven't had it like choke out or anything like that. But it's pretty
That's
impressive.
good. That's
So,
good.
The
Awesome.
downfall about Raspberry Pis is that you get involved with all different OSs and you end up with one of these bad boys full of SD cards.
you know what? I need one of those bad boys. Can you put a link in the YouTube chat on whatever that bad boy is so I can buy one?
Absolutely. You grab it.
Awesome.
I got it off Amazon.
So, anybody else have anything they can throw in on the Raspberry Pi? If not, Vash has a topic here about that I'd like him to throw in. If nobody else has anything else on the Raspberry Pi.
The only thing I'd like to comment, where you're talking the ARM discussion a little bit, was talking about stuff moving to cloud. I see a lot of the things going more internet-based, especially in my wife's career in real estate. I don't necessarily agree that everything's going to go there because, as Monica mentioned about having horsepower, there's times when you just need to have horsepower. Or, in today's world, when you're relying on the internet and you have an outage, that can really cause a deficit for a workflow. So I don't think that things will ever be 100% away from desktops or
That's why I have redundancy.
Pardon me?
That's why I have redundancy. Reality is you will never have only one connection to internet.
Yeah.
At least
Well,
serious
yeah, but
company
again,
will.
if you're talking the average user, though, too, Big Pod, now
Yeah.
you're talking a commercial environment, that's one thing. But, my wife who works from home, works from her office, whatever, so there's a lot of internet-based stuff there. But there's many times she has to go into her office and do things specifically native on her desktop in there or whatever. So, there's different levels or different, I
In
guess.
future, it will all blend together because
Yeah.
that's how it will be. Like It is a lot better if, like, say, you could have a power of your desktop in a phone, and you just click the button, and it will be power of your desktop on a phone with same programs, everything. But it would become automatically more accustomed to the surface you're using. If you're using phone, it would become more mobile experience. If it is keyboard and mouse, more computer experience. That's all it can be done.
So
You
what
just
you're
need to program
saying
it
is
together.
everything's going to go to Plasma? Is that what you're saying, Big Pie?
No,
Because that's what it sounds like.
everything's
That's
gonna go cloud, and reality is only front ends, whether it be
Oh,
that application is a front end to some service, whether
I
it be
think it'll
service
be.
running on
I
your
I
computer
think
or
I think it's gonna be
somewhere in
more.
cloud.
I think it's gonna be more like, more of like the way I'm seeing it go as far as like the applications and such that I follow. Maybe it'll be more like kind of a mix of the two. There's actually a word I was trying to find, but I couldn't. I
Right.
lost my word. But
Yep.
I think it's gonna be more like because like when I'm using Fusion 360, if I need more processing power to do like analytics on it, I then can actually push it from my local machine off into a server. But as far as like most of the processing happens locally, and I think that's more likely to happen, especially like where I live. There's not really what you would call excellent internet. I mean, right now I'm barely scraping by being able to do this thing that I'm doing right now. Like we're if I'm an airplane, I'm scraping the top of the trees here, and I'm catching a few branches now and again. But and so I don't know that there's a lot of like rural or backwoods areas of at least of the U.S. and I'm sure in other countries too, where you just don't have that kind of connectivity. But does anybody else have anything else on the ARM? I don't want to. I want to make sure we can get on to the. Vash has a really awesome topic I want to bring up about the Linux Foundation. So, does anybody else have anything want to kick in on there, on their love for ARM? No. Anything on that 7-Up there, buddy? How's that 7-Up? Is it good?
Sorry, it's ginger ale actually.
Oh, well,
Canada Dry.
darn it.
Much better actually.
Oh,
Much better.
okay.
It tastes really
Okay,
good.
I
Ginger
really
ale
feel
is
out of
delicious.
place with my Dr. Pepper now, but I don't have any ginger ale in the house, so can't solve that problem.
Dr. Pepper is also really good. Dr. Pepper is also really good.
I got Southern sweet iced tea.
Oh,
I'm
that would be good,
excited.
but then I'd be up all night. Also, I'm trying to usually do half and half tea, because
That's what we're
especially
doing.
some places, like, oh my lord, like, have you ever tried Milo's tea?
No, I don't think we have a Milo's here, but I know
Oh.
Bojangles put so much sugar in theirs.
Oh my god, it's pretty much the equivalent of Bojangles sweet tea. They also sell it by the gallon too, but that I would have to do like 3/4 unsweet and about 1/4 sweet, and it was still
Yeah,
it was fine.
yeah. That's what. And if sugar puts so much weight on me, I'm trying to lose weight, so I'm also trying to cut the sugar. Why?
Your
A big
pancreas will
reason
thank
why
you.
We went half and half. Do what now?
Yeah.
So your pancreas will thank you. So
Yes, it will.
so Vash, I don't know if you want to hop in here on the on that article or any of the 2 articles that you shared with me on the Linux Foundation slamming the ban hammer on the University of Minnesota.
Yeah, so apparently the University of Minnesota, one of their researchers decided to submit bad code, faulty code on purpose to the Linux kernel, and then did so again. And one of the moderators for the stable branch of the Linux kernel just decided to ban the University of Minnesota. I feel like there's part of this is just kind of drama stuff, but at the same time, I kind of understand why they did it, because ultimately that's code that they have to review, that they have to now they're going back and reviewing all the commits by University of Minnesota staff and whatnot. So there's a lot of time that's going to be put in just to review all this stuff, and there's a lot of time goes in to review code. So for you to purposely submit bad code and then try to play it off like you didn't do it on purpose, even though they wrote a paper about it. I kind of get where they're coming from.
It's pretty brazen. What I thought was interesting, reading through it. So they got permission from So the researchers, their names, I'm not going to try and pronounce it as um, to not make myself sound dumber than I am. But they actually did they got permission from something within the organization, which is part of the reason why the Linux Foundation said to ban it, because it was a not in good faith experiment. You know, if you're a
The
pen
University
tester,
of Minnesota's IRB, which is their institutional review board. So,
right?
for those that are not familiar with the research, when you're doing something like that, especially I can remember it more from psychology and things like that, but you have to put it in front of basically an ethics board.
Right.
And the ethics board said this was not a human experimentation, which, I mean, you're kind of using up people's time to review this stuff.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty. I mean, has anyone else read or heard about this? This is also on the This Week in Linux live stream. Michael Tennell brought this up as well, and
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, and I still, as a former academic who thankfully only ever had to mostly deal with dead people and not live ones, history, not cadavers, that their IRB would just be like, whatever, this is fine. And I think that this is a really good case why humanities and tech need to be having way better conversations with each other to let them know that yes, that this is going to this will have a detrimental effect on people. The ethics are gray at best, and so that really should have just not ever happened
Yeah.
in the first place. And I think that if you had people who didn't understand why the ethics were questionable, again, let's have more conversations, and maybe this will be a horrible spark to a much needed talk that we need to have. So, but I read that and I was like, oh my God. It's like, I think I posted in one of the Telegram channels, like, this is a good example of Minnesota not nice. So,
yeah.
Well,
I
you
think
know
what's
what made it so bad? That it was live code. It was
mm-hmm,
so much of the world relies on Linux, and
yeah.
it could be a catastrophe. So crazy.
Right. Well, I'm actually kind of glad that the University of Minnesota got the ban hammer. They deserved it.
Yeah, I
What
think so
happened
too.
there was not just a security risk; it was pure insanity. I can't. I When I first heard about it, I've been trying to find like the genuine reasoning because the University of Minnesota themselves probably run a lot of servers with Linux. Why would they do such a thing and put detriment on so many other projects just for a quick experiment? That makes no sense.
Actually, it does make sense. The reality experiment was, if you can you put supply chain attack style bugs into the kernel? That was the baseline of the experiment. But problem is that experiment ran away. That's the problem they're trying out now to basically normalize. The experiment ran away. They tried it. They got I believe actually one or two things uh, actually got in. What they did then after that, they actually got caught, but then still tried doing it, and that's the problematic part. And
Well,
reality is, as an experiment, it's actually a good experiment. It is actually being done in many software companies. People trying to inject uh, bad code as a supply chain attack style, but most of the time those companies are aware. Problem was
Mm-hmm,
Linux kernel team, especially the high leadership of it, wasn't aware. If that would be
that's a problem.
if Greg Kroah-Hartman or Linus Torvalds would be aware, it would be much less severe problem because they would be aware what patches are the ones that are being supply chain attack experiments, and they could remove them before they actually did any damage, or they would need to now they need to check every code ever being submitted by University of Minnesota employees and associates, and that is now a big detriment to whole kernel team and everybody else.
I
But
wonder how many
yes,
hours.
the whole system is the whole what was happening is a is a good thing. It's just that it was done in wrong way, in bad faith, and that should not be acceptable.
I'm not saying that the direct actions they were taking, like I was not saying like the general idea was a bad idea. That makes no sense. It was the way that they were handling it,
Yes,
like that. Oh yeah, let's just randomly input random broken code, intentionally buggy, intentionally available for attacks, and not tell anyone. Well, what if something slipped through, except for to certain keen eyes who are now going to abuse that and basically
yes,
attack every Linux user.
yes. That's
Oh,
the
but
problem.
even beyond that though, like their original paper was like they wanted to see what would happen, but they kept
As basically that may fly.
But were they
When I,
doing this
when,
as this
as were
as
they
this
doing this as part of the university, or were they doing this on their
yes,
own?
part of
yes.
the university.
So that's probably why they use their
Yeah,
they
but
associate themselves with the universities because they're trying to be protected by the university for one.
future kernel developers who are or will be students should be advised anyway to use their own personal email to attach themselves to the kernel like that, and not as a part of university, because for a simple reason, sooner or later after they leave, all that email will become unavailable, because
Yeah, and I think most students would not use their student email. I think it's because it's a professor,
no,
that's their day-to-day business email and they're kind of doing it
Yeah.
for business reasons.
a lot of students use university or their school's emails for everything. That is a big
I never
problem.
did that. I always use my personal email. I never even
Yeah,
logged into
because
my
I
school one.
I hated using my school email because my school system uses deep packet inspection. So whenever I did something online, it didn't matter if I was using HTTPS or not. They could see literally everything I was doing on their network. So if I wanted to do something, I would only use my school email for things that I had to go through my school email for. Every other time, I would use my personal email, and most of my friends who are in the same school system as me did the exact same thing. The only exception to this is when I got into high school. The school system had us all have an email in like middle school, and we were supposed to use that in high school. But my high school specifically had us all make our own emails. I do still use that because that is not tied to the school system. It is a normal email account, so I just still use that because it ended up getting used so often.
I
Um,
haven't logged
so,
in my school's email yet.
well, like I said, that email was just made for school, in school, just completely disconnected from school. It's using a normal Gmail domain. And most of the people who were in the same class as me do the same thing because it is disconnected. We didn't have the same email filters because not only did they use deep packet inspection, but they also filtered what domains we could send and receive emails from, which is kind of stupid if you ask me, but I also kind of understand why, because you're dealing with elementary schoolers having emails, and that can get really iffy real quick.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and that, and just also as someone who learned really quickly maybe not to tie things to her college emails, that once you graduate or leave, then you lose access.
yeah.
And then that really sucks. And you're just like, oh, I need to redo all of my accounts now. Not fun.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about this email is because even though, like I said, it was made in school for school, because it's disconnected from any actual school accounts, it doesn't get shut down like that. It's just a normal Gmail account as far as Google is concerned, and as far as everybody else is concerned, so it's not an issue. And that's why they did that. Is they said, a lot of kids at that time period, your only email address may be your school email. So they had us make these other emails. That way, once we did graduate, we had another email. And like I said, most of us still use that email. I had another email, and I just switched everything over to it because all my spam was going to the old email. And it's nice to get rid of spam every once in a while, but You know, it just made my life easier going that route.
Well, just to put it back on track of the University of Minnesota and the Linux
Oh, yeah.
kernel team, do you think there's just at this point of discussion, do you think there should be some sort of a like I me personally I feel like yeah the right move right now is to potentially for the Linux kernel to ban Minnesota from future input into the project, but I don't believe that should be a permanent ban. I think that there should be some way of reapplying or having that hammer lifted.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
kind of
what are
what
your
I was
thoughts on
trying
that?
to.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
they should
agree.
have certain time in which they would learn their lesson, but that is all in the hands of kernel team and Linux Foundation to choose whether they want to or not.
Yeah, and I think that if they're clearly, I think, going to realize that one would hope that they would learn that they did something wrong. And you don't just have it expire. You have a good long talk with the relevant faculty members. And if it seems like they're going to act in good faith, then you lift that.
Hey
And then I
Thomas,
think if you realize that there's
are are you blowing stuff?
Sorry.
it's okay.
If it isn't clicky keyboard, it's canned air.
Oh, it's a
Yeah, yeah. It sounded like someone with a compressor. Kind of like,
Yeah,
ow.
he's cleaning a laptop, I think.
Maybe there's a
No,
way
he's blowing the crumbs out of his seat.
to kind of containerize the code that they submit to where it's walled off from any live code. And
I
then
think
once they prove that they have not only the competency but the professionalism to commit code and whatnot, at least it'll be able to be denied, or that they're aware of it, and at least in that way they can learn and understand how to become better programmers. But
So
I know
I
it was
did
on
see.
purpose, but at the same
I'm
time
pretty
it
sure I did.
shows that they're capable that way.
I'm
Was that
pretty sure I
Nick?
did see there was a response from the head of computer sciences at the university. I don't know if you got that up there, Nate, but I could find it. And the response was actually quite contrite. They were, they realized what they did was very wrong. And I think that was the right response, but I'll try and find it for you if I can.
Yeah, sure. And if you can post that in the
It's
YouTube chat,
probably
I
one
think
of
we
those
get to share.
things. I'm sorry. It's probably one of those things where they were saying like, yeah, I'm sorry, but only because they got caught type things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I know they're doing it in preparation
wouldn't
of
doubt
a security like summit of some kind. There's some sort of a symposium. I don't know what it was, but that they were preparing for.
They
Yeah,
failed that
that's
security thing then because they obviously didn't follow their own security protocols.
Well, I mean, they
I
got
think
caught.
it's all in education. How do we know what it's like?
Oh,
Well,
you
I,
cut
You
out
know,
there pretty badly.
I
I'm
did
sorry.
find their response, and it just goes along the line that they learned what happened. The leadership of the computer science and engineering learned what happened, and that they take the situation extremely seriously, and they shut down this line of research, and they will do proper investigation into it and determine what remedial action should happen and how to protect against future issues of this type.
So basically, what they're saying is we're going to cover the school's butt, and we're going to put the blame on the other group that was doing it, and we're going to shut it all down and go from there.
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Something has to be
And
done.
it's
It's a canned
explained in
response.
two paragraphs. When talking about this kind of things, I expect at least 7, because this is really big.
No,
Yeah.
proper. It can be one paragraph, but this is clearly a canned response that they just change the finer details. You can have a proper apology, proper response in short, but this is clearly a canned
This
response.
is taking a towel. This is taking a towel, putting around your waist right after you came out of a shower of blood. This is insanity.
Well, I think it's interesting to see how this unfolds in the future. I don't know if we're going to forget about it by next week or not, but something to I think it's something to I'm all about when someone does something wrong or it's pretty egregious. I think this is pretty egregious personally. I think this is not a good experiment.
Yeah.
Had they maybe did something to say hey to like maybe Linus or Greg H and maybe arranged for this, like a pen tester, they have to have permission before they do penetration testing.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I would think in the same way they would have to have permission before starting this experiment, and they could properly flag the code or would know, because who knows how many hours of time is being spent now to roll this stuff back. I have no idea. I know that it delays things, and it's a net negative for all users because they did this experiment. It's not a good. It was not very nice, and I'm shaking my finger. So I don't like to have to do this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And just remember, if you're a pen tester, you don't have permission. You're not a tester. You're a hacker.
That's right. Didn't say the
magic word. Love it. Love it. Oh my God.
I'm a huge fan of Jurassic Park. I've been watching it since I was a child.
Yeah, I almost went into paleontology because of that movie, and then I hit a mineralogy class. I'm like, no, but I saw the original like 5 times in theaters. God, it was so good.
Oh God,
so
I lost
good.
track of how many times I watched that movie.
I haven't seen it in a while, but
So good.
I'm waiting for when my kids are old enough that they can see, dinosaurs ripping apart people and animals. So it's gonna be a little bit before I can get to there.
You don't see that. I mean, we just see the aftermath of it, but
I don't want to scar my 9-year-old.
Guy in half.
Yeah.
Fair.
Clever girl.
Fair.
So
yes.
But I will say the Lego Jurassic World, I bought it on Steam it's not really for Linux, but it works great in Linux.
Awesome.
Been playing with my kids and they love it. It's a really fun game. Like you laugh. I mean, it's just fun because if you know the movie, Legos and video games, it's like
Lego dinosaurs.
Putting two things together, and that fun. But it's really well done.
The real Legos are great to set up your parents, so especially walk in with bare feet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Evil.
So actually, I was thinking.
I knew a child that basically did that, where it was intentional Legos on the ground because they knew I walked barefoot everywhere, and I found a way around it. It's called channeling my inner masochist.
Well, if you scoot your feet, it's okay, or almost okay. But I was thinking instead of getting a dog, I could just put Legos in front of the windows in my house, and then if someone breaks in,
that is so Home Alone. I love it.
Home Alone. I was just about to say that.
Without the glass, but with something even more painful.
You'll hear screaming. I mean, I don't know why they're coming to my house barefoot, but it could happen, I guess. But good times.
Oh lordy.
Well, excellent. I think that was some good conversations there. We have 50 more minutes to fill to get to the 2-hour mark. Now, I know that Fedora is coming down the pike here pretty soon. Fedora 34.
They are.
So
on
Fedora,
Tuesday.
It's looking pretty interesting. I've been messing around with it in a couple virtual machines. It's been pretty interesting looking at what's going on.
What is interesting from your perspective? What excites you? I like to hear where is your passion coming from in this?
It's mostly like just kind of playing around with it. I've not really noticed anything that's caught my eye like 100%, but I've noticed definitely some speed changes. I've noticed a couple things are a little bit faster, and that's my main notice. Is a couple of things are a little bit faster, at least if you compile it directly, because I don't think they have any beta ISOs out yet. I have no idea because I don't look at those all that often, and I compile all the things from their Git sources, and it's so far looking like a couple of speed improvements might be coming along the way.
Cool.
Now, I recently, when I say recently, it could be in the last year, tried Fedora 33. To me, time runs together so quickly. We just had Christmas. I think I'm still cleaning up wrapping paper.
I mean, we're barely in April 2020, so I don't know what you all are talking about.
I keep forgetting it's April. It's so close to my birthday. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, my birthday is in less than a week.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Are you doing anything special for your birthday?
Probably not. Probably the most interesting thing that's going to happen around that time is maybe getting a vaccination before July.
Hey, that's good.
And I just noticed he's actually wearing a Jurassic Park shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I showed. Yeah, I wear this a lot more than I probably should.
That's
Cal,
understandable.
what day is your birthday?
April 30th.
Exactly the same as mine. Yay!
Awesome!
I got a birthday buddy.
Yeah!
Hey, we're brothers.
Well, we can have a happy belated birthday thing next Saturday then.
I'll try to make it. I'm a little.
I don't know anyone else that has the same birthday. Cool.
For some reason, I've met like 80 people in my life that either have the same birthday as me or the same birthday as like one of my main 3 exes.
Oh.
Always on those dates. Okay, for my exes, they're actually the good exes. Like ones I'm still friends with, just the relationship didn't work out.
It happens. So I was going to say, Fedora 33. Something that I noticed with Fedora 33 is it's really like DNF has vastly improved from the last time I used Fedora. So like
it has actually. That was an intentional fix. They, if I remember correctly, the way they fixed it was kind of shut down and disable some of the slower DNF servers and kind of upgrade those, and hope that did help a lot. It really did. It was close enough for me to start testing out a project idea on it. I
That's
never
cool.
went through with it.
Yeah, I noticed that because I've been running openSUSE now for about 10 years ish as my regular distribution. I don't hop very much, if you can tell, and which, by the way, also the next episode of DLN Extend, we were talking about distro hopping, and I do bring that up, that I just hop between 2 distributions, openSUSE Leap and Tumbleweed. So that's in case you care. But anyway, what I did notice is Zipper to me is pretty fast. It's pretty responsive. It does everything I want it to do quite nicely, and I like Zipper because it was faster than DNF. I thought DNF was rather slow from the last time I used it, and then when I used Fedora 33, I'm like, holy cow, what are they doing here? Do they they put some hot sauce in this thing and just taking off like crazy? So I'm really, really impressed with Fedora's progress. Like to the point where, I've really, really loved Zipper, but now DNF is like, ooh, 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 ooh. It's really close. I mean, DNF used to mean for me does not function. Now it's like, now it's something I don't have an acronym for. But yeah, it's been pretty great. So let's see, who have we not heard from in this panel of people? Let's see.
Pretty quiet.
Yeah, Eris has been pretty quiet. Chris has been pretty quiet. Big Pod's never quiet. Joe.
It's never quiet.
What did that was supposed to be an internal monologue. I apologize. That wasn't supposed to come out.
DNF, do you think it's something that they did with DNF, or do you think it's just the fact that Python interpreter is getting faster?
So from what I heard from Neil Gompa from the actual development team on Fedora, they just modified like some of the repos that were enabled by default. They turned some of those off, a lot of the slower ones, and that's how they fixed it. At least according to one of the Fedora developers I know.
I do know that going from Python 3 to 0.8 to Python 3.9, there were some minor performance improvements, but I'm not sure if the DNF code base is large enough for that to actually make a noticeable speed difference. I would need to look at that. I know one of the performance improvements that they did was how Python code is compiled. Instead of doing it dynamically, I think they're starting to do it statically or something like that. It is actually compiled, believe it or not. It's not quite an interpreter. It's the just-in-time compiler with an interpreter. It's really, really weird. It's close. It's kind of similar to what Java does. Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand it. But
It's
you
like
can
the
actually.
it's the one thing I hate about Java, brought to my second least favorite programming language.
But on the bright side, you can actually take the Python interpreter and tell it to just do that just-in-time compilation and just output that file or output that data to a file, so you can compile that ahead of time. It's just like super, super finicky about how you actually can use it. And I think they might have actually removed that in like Python 3.9, but I know it existed in like Python 3.7 or something like that. I don't know. I never used it because it's stupid. Just distribute your source code. And are you afraid of people seeing your dirty source code? Come on, guys.
There are some
I mean-
benefits to using just-in-time compiling, or even compiling directly into the some sort of machine code or something
Yeah,
close
I'm
to
well
machine
aware
code.
that like even like startup time, you know, if you compile ahead of time, that can already help a lot. I'm just saying, you know, it takes a lot less effort to just distribute your source code and just
Yes.
run that in the Python interpreter and just call it a day. Now, if your program is closed source, A, what are you doing? And B,
Naughty things.
stop it. But I also understand that you have to compile ahead of time if you are dealing with closed source software in order to make it so that people can't modify your software. I get that.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, you shouldn't be writing your code in Python. And if you are, it should be somewhere where users can't access it. So
Okay, Python is probably the last programming language you should ever use for a closed source program. I'm just going to be honest. It would be
it really is.
any interpreted programming language for that matter would be would be a stupid idea to use. For
Unless it's
Well,
like an
you
interpretive in that it uses a just-in-time compiler, in which case, you know, you could probably circumvent that, but
Well,
just don't bother.
reality is anything that uses JIT or something like that can be turned into some sort of source code. Reality is C. I could turn C into a source code if I tried enough. It is
Right.
that the
Yeah,
reality is, if you want, you can turn anything into source code. No matter some sort of code, whether it be machine code, whether it be assembly, whether it be proper C
right,
or
but
whatever.
you're talking about a disassembler, and a disassembler will not give you a one-to-one exactly the same code or even assembly as what they compiled from, because of the optimizations done in the compiler. You're not going to get things like comments. You're not going to get things like functions that are there but aren't used, because those get ripped out too. Because why do you compile it? And why do you have that in there if it's not being used in a compiled language? There's just a lot of things that a disassembler will not give you or are greatly modified because it's because of those optimizations done in the compiler.
Yes.
So
Have
yes,
you
you
ever
can
done
get
it?
like a general gist of what's going on, but it's not the same thing.
Monica,
That's what is
Have you-
important.
have you
Monica,
ever
what's the
done
throwing on
a,
this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think my thing was going actually back to the Fedora release and not in the Python discussion. So if we wanted to like,
Yeah, I want to keep it there.
you know,
'cause-
like bring the
you're
Python
good.
discussion to a natural close. So whenever we go back to the newest Fedora, then yes, I do have a thing that I want to ask.
Yeah, we're talking about Fedora. I mean, we can get into the weeds about like Python and compile time and low latency kernels, but I think we'll lose people if we get too deep into that. So
I'm gonna say, if you want to know about speed of Python, go check video by channel on YouTube, Dave's Garage.
hey,
He
can
did
you
an
share a
excellent
link to
video.
that in the YouTube chat, please? So because I know there probably are Python interested programmers, so please share that. That'd be good. And Chris,
Somebody will need to approve it.
All right, that's fine. Someone will approve it. So Chris, you want to weigh in on is it on Fedora? You want to weigh in or Python or something?
Oh well, I mean, I'm pretty much a lifelong Fedora user. I mean, I play with other distros, but I don't really distro hop.
I understand.
I've been using Fedora since Core 6, I think it was, or maybe even Core 4.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was real fun going from Yum to DNF. But the thing is, they're really. I mean, what is 34 going to give me over 33?
I don't know. I'm just asking. I know they're always tuning things. But 33 has been great. Yeah, so I don't know.
Wayland?
I think that of course they're working on that. I think Pipewire also. So I think that's another positive thing as
Although
well.
I'm running a Cinnamon desktop on top of it, so Wayland really isn't
Isn't
an
a thing
issue
yet.
so much.
Yeah. So doesn't Fedora 34, since it incorporates the GNOME 40, doesn't
Yeah.
it have the touchpad?
Oh, the
So
gestures, the touchpad
the
gestures.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
And they work
That
great.
oh that is ridiculously exciting because I find myself still trying to do that on my ThinkPad running stock Ubuntu 2004, and because I came from using MacBooks, and I get really frustrated when the gestures don't work, and so that is something
Well,
I'm
you start
really
using other
excited.
gestures, right?
I mean, it's very hard for
Gestures I'm
anything
not
to
going to
compare
show
to.
on this channel.
Yes. Okay.
No, it's very hard for anything to compare to your MacBook gestures, right? Because they're on another level. But what I'm really going to be interested in seeing is once Elementary OS is out with the work they're doing with the gestures, just comparing
Very
how
true.
well they're going to work. Because
Very
Elementary,
true.
they're working really closely with I think it's Touch Egg is the one they use. I always want to pronounce it Touche Egg, but I think it's Touch Egg. And I've seen some of I think it was Daniel who was streaming, Daniel Fora who was streaming the development of that, and how they can swipe away. You can swipe away notifications, so when they pop up on the screen, you just swipe them away. That's just, I mean, I've seen some of that going on, and I'm just really excited to be able to take a look at that when it comes out and compare it to what GNOME 40 are doing.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun to me.
So when you say gestures, I'm just curious. So I don't like the touchpad. Never have. I mean I like it. I like it better than not having a touchpad. But I prefer a mouse. Now I know like three finger or like how you use, like, can you explain to me
Right,
like what?
so multi-touch.
Yeah, so multi-touch
Yeah.
gestures.
Exactly.
It's kind of like like this mouse right here. This is the Magic Mouse for my Mac, and you can do gestures right on this like it's a trackpad. So two fingers go this way to switch workspaces. 2 fingers that way to go back to the workspace. 3 fingers to do it depends on what you have it set up for. That's why I was holding up that mouse when you guys were talking about gestures. This thing is amazing little mouse. I wish I'm gonna
Save
check
the
that
mice.
I'm gonna try using that in the old on that Fedora 34 if it has gestures, because see if it works with the Magic Mouse.
Yeah, I guess I need to look into that more. Maybe I would like touchpads more if there was more gestures, I guess. Because I don't think Plasma. Do you know if Plasma has any kind of gestures besides the 2 finger for left click? I think that's about or right click rather. I don't think it does. It's interesting.
Yeah, because really the only gesture that I found is the one that accidentally closes my meeting window when I'm in a chat, which, yeah, that was great. That happened with Hayden, like my first day. I was like still trying to get used to the ThinkPad, but being able to have it, and I know that other people have just on their ThinkPads just turned their trackpad off because it's just it's too much can go wrong, and it would be nice to have it be a functional thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of customers that will reach out to us. Well, yeah, we're working with the bank about the touchpads. So they use the HPs and all that kind of stuff, and apparently they can be very, very, when they're typing and their palms hit them, and they have certain programs that they can't have any mouse movements or something. I don't know, but they keep trying to get us to disable the trackpads for them, and unfortunately we're not allowed to because our GIS, which is our security group, will not allow it. They have it shut. They have it locked down, so they can't. You can't make any changes on that. Well, we can. We can log in as administrator, but we're not allowed to turn them off because next thing you know they want to turn it off for a period of time. They want to turn it back on. So no, they have to deal with it or just use an external mouse and keyboard. But yeah.
Isn't that one of the features that were added into Pop! OS? I know that there's a lot of new features that were put in there, and I could have swore I saw the gesturing was one of them with
with
the squeeze.
the
The
Cosmic.
squeeze. Yeah, the I don't know if it was the most recent release that was coming out that came out or not, but I saw something just a few days ago, and I was looking at it, and it was almost reminding me of the Apple type, with the squeeze effect to bring things bigger and move around, and it was multiple gestures. I could have swore it was Pop! OS.
The pinch.
Pinch. Yep. There you
go. Yeah, I think Monica's right. I think that comes out with the Cosmic, I believe.
What was that?
I think you were right. It comes out with the new Cosmic desktop for Pop! OS. Yeah.
Yep.
Nate, I don't know if you'd want to shift gears a little bit or not, but we mentioned about talking about some apps. One of the things that I actually paid for the first time while being on Linux is ViewScan, because I was looking for a good quality scanner. It's one thing to download the drivers for my brother can be hit or miss with their drivers sometimes, and I've got a MFC 7460, excuse me, and it works on Ubuntu, but it seemed to have its quirks once in a while on my Manjaro, but that was my fault. And I had downloaded this out of the repos, and it worked flawless, but you have the watermark for the free, so I wound up buying the pro version, and it absolutely works perfect. So often we hear a lot of complaints about, printers don't work on Linux. You always got to fight with them. This brand is not good. This one's, I think it just comes down to support. And this is a company that it's for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and they make it specifically for that, and it worked right out of the box perfectly. So I didn't know if anybody else had any exposure to that, but and I'm actually thinking about buying the pro version of Master PDF too now.
Yeah, I use Master PDF. I also PDF Studio by Quopa or something like that. I use that one. I sometimes I'll burn money on applications for Linux. What can I say? But the but I did buy a new HP LaserJet, a color one, and I had some trouble with the proprietary drivers from HP on that one. Their application was broken, and the certificate wasn't quite right, or something wasn't quite right, and so I had to manually do it in the terminal to get it working.
Right.
But the fine folks in the openSUSE community on their forums, they walked me through that, so that was pretty great. So
that's the one thing I noticed, even when coming back to the brother with the drivers downloads from there, you have to do the command line install for them to work correctly, because if you try to do it any other way, they never seem to they might take for a little bit and then they break or something. But this company, if you want to look it up, it's viewscan.org, I believe, or maybe it's .com. Let me take a look here just to correct myself. No, actually, the company's name is Hamrick, HAMRICK.com. That's who makes this, and they supposedly support 6,000 USB scanners, and also Raspberry Pi. It said specifically on there as well.
Interesting.
So I just thought if anybody wanted to try it, even the free version, just to see how it would work, I had great success the instant I tried it.
Do you have a link you can put in the YouTube chat on that?
I don't know if I'm a mod in here or not, but I can link it.
It might show up, and I'll have to something at pass it through. Somebody can moderate it through. If not, let me know.
All right, I tried it.
I don't see anything.
Yeah, it shows there. It just doesn't give you the actual connection link.
Oh well, rats.
No,
cool.
If it'll stay there, they could cut and paste it too.
So I guess there's something called Touch Egg that allows gestures in Plasma. I don't know anything about it yet. I don't know if anyone else has played with that.
That's
It's a
what
That's
mainly
the one I was
everything uses.
mentioning.
That's what
Okay.
most DEs or systems use is TouchEgg.
Okay. Yeah, I have to look into that. I see it's available in the openSUSE repositories, but I haven't I'd like to play with that to learn more about what this multi-touch thing is. Maybe it'll change my attitude on the touchpad. I like the little J mouse thing, a little the touch point. Is that what it's called? Track point. What are those things called? Between the G, H, and B. I like those things.
The part of an organ.
I know what you're getting at, Big Pod. It's supposed to. It's a track point.
Track point. There we go.
It's a track point.
Or a
Yeah.
touch
Yeah.
stick.
But oh, Big Pod. I don't know what we do with you. I mean, without you.
I try to be safe.
Yeah.
It's just me, or has there been a lot of finger waving tonight?
There has. At least we're not wagging the tail or whatever. Something like that.
Well, clearly somebody's cat needs to walk across the screen so they can wag their tail. So
Right.
Well,
Where's
my
Barb?
cat was here
Speaking of
earlier.
that.
Yeah, we need Barb.
Yeah.
My cat
These
was
cats.
here earlier, but nobody noticed her. There was a little kitten that I rescued basically around the last time that we did the biddle.
Oh.
She's big cat now. She's now she's still not a year old yet, but she's about 8 months. She just I don't know where she went. I can get her back.
Oh, I can't
I'll
believe
show
I
her.
missed the kitten.
Yeah, you were looking down doing something, typing or looking at something there.
Yeah, I was also in the process of ordering us dinner at some point because
That's
yeah,
probably
we're
what you were doing
eating
then, because you
super
were focused
late.
on something.
Yeah.
It happens.
I'll find her in a little bit here and bring her back.
It's
No
good to know.
worries.
It's good to know that the there's some synergy between the different desktop environments using TouchEgg or whatever as the core, and then just building the interface on top of it. That's really good news, I think. I like seeing more of that as opposed to not, where there's more cooperation between the projects. And I know that the KDE and GNOME projects, or GNOME, whatever you call it, I know they work together quite a bit on things. There's a lot of cooperation between them, which is good.
Yep, and I know that the Linux Application Summit is coming up. God, I should know the date, but that's coming up soon, and that's their big one really big thing that they cooperate on. And I'm really hoping next year, if it's in person, fingers crossed, that I'll maybe actually get to go. That would be very cool.
It would be fun. Fingers crossed.
Fingers
hoping.
crossed.
Here's hoping.
I can't be optimistic at this point. I'm just looking at like other countries right now, the United States, that are going through another humongous.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen next year. Next year we're gonna still be chained to our computers for everything. And
I like it to work from home.
Yeah, I wish I had work, and I would love to do it from home. Reality is, I don't think we'll be doing the conferences in person in 2 years. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening because in many countries, especially in Europe, vaccinations are not going great.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Of course, the vaccinations are not even actually a guarantee.
Yeah.
Sure, you can get both vaccines. Both your shots. Wait a couple
They
weeks
need to get
be immune to
booster
the
shots.
current. Yeah, but then you're only immune to what's currently known.
Yeah, and the reality is, they're talking about it in a year's time. We're gonna need to get a booster shot anyway.
Yep.
So,
it'll be like the
how
flu.
much of it's actually true, and
Like
how much of it
every
is
year,
actually really?
people get a flu shot.
Yep.
So
I haven't had a flu shot ever, and every year I get flu like crazy.
Well.
Okay.
Well,
so
the reality is, I can survive it. Who cares?
So for
Yeah.
me, I have not had a flu shot in like 7 years. And I have actually gotten the flu twice ever, and it wasn't that bad. For me, at least.
Well, you're young.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's it's doing it more as to kind of not overwhelm your health system, and then also to to protect people who, if they get it, it does suck.
Yeah.
Well, also,
catches that flu vaccine isn't even guaranteed to even be effective.
Well, I mean,
Because
because you kind of have to roll the dice with the
yeah,
variants that you think will be prevalent. So
yeah,
Yeah, it's a guessing
well,
game.
I think also though you have to keep in mind it's just I'm not a medical expert, but some people
me
can't be
neither.
vaccinated,
that's
and
Yes,
true,
I
and
think,
that's why it's important
but
for
I
those
think
of
that
us
is
who
why it's
can.
important for most diseases, most of our are, because that then we develop as a group, we develop something they refer to as herd immunity, which means that
Her,
we
which
can bring the disease to even they even get it,
well,
which
it
is really important.
basically takes the infection rate down by basically having it be impossible for the infection to find a new host
Yes,
that isn't going
Hmm.
to immediately kill it.
Yep.
yes,
so
And
but
then
the what I was going to say though is I think there should be I personally believe there should be more emphasis put on therapeutics and also in prevention more than just vaccinations. So because
well,
there's a lot of people that need that cannot be vaccinated, and so
well,
I worry for that population that maybe there are other methods that we can use too besides just vaccinations.
reality is how we're going to walk from now on everywhere with our masks.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I mean, it's like I've just gotten to the point where I take mine off out outside. If I know that, other people aren't by me. But it was also extremely nice not to get a single cold this year. And
I still got
so,
cold.
oh,
Got cold in summer.
yeah. No,
Great
I didn't
job,
get
me.
any colds, so I am completely okay. It was like if we, pop into the store or go somewhere indoors, I'm perfectly fine. So, but it's yeah, I have a feeling that this could be a long, hopefully not contentious conversation, but um yeah. I think that everyone, we're all eager for things to not suck. And for those of us who've, been pretty much stuck inside for 12, 14 months now, to get back out there, but knowing that it is a very gradual thing and what used to be normal won't be normal for a while. But it is nice to have, at least in some bits of the world, a bit of optimism. But yeah, it's a global thing, and we do have to, with public health, it's not just it's about everyone. And so I hope that by the time we're having this conversation next year, that things are in a better place.
Well, I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optometrist, so I'm looking forward to see what happens. So, get it? Plan words. All right. Anyone here have any like I know that Joe, I think was it Joe? You do stuff with computers, right? You like you rebuild things, you fix things for people. You were in that business.
Yeah, wow, it's become more of a pastime than a business anymore. I've kind of retired, but yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
still do that. I've been actually rebuilding some stuff this past week too. Yeah.
So I had there's a lady, she's a 80-plus-year-old lady, and she runs Linux. She actually came to me and says, "I want to run what you run, and will you put it on my computer?" So I did. So this is a few years ago. It's like 2018, 19, sometime 18. Anyway, doesn't matter. So she's been running Linux for a while, and she has HP Pavilion 15 machine, and she came to me with a touchpad issue. Speaking of touchpads, and it wouldn't like it. Basically, what happened was it would be the touchpad would be stuck on. Have you ever run into this problem? Like it was one of those like the touchpads that also have like the button press to it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like that's like okay. So it's like there's a momentary switch somewhere in there. Then the whole touchpad,
So it
sits
physically
down.
got stuck.
Yeah, it did. And so
You go ahead.
I ordered a new touchpad for her, and I installed it, and that wasn't the problem. It was the lithium-ion battery, lithium polymer battery, started to expand and basically pinch it, and was actually causing the entire case to be deformed. Have you ever? Yeah.
Actually, I'll tell you what that happened on probably about a year ago, my son's old MacBook Pro, 17-inch that we had bought him for college. It was a very high-end machine, and it's now sitting in pieces in the other room because it's probably going to be worth more selling it off that way. But um, it actually, that's what happened. The battery itself blew up. It's like when you leave a battery in something too long and the corrosion starts, and then eventually they kind of swell. That's exactly what happened. I started noticing the keypad was coming up on it, and so it's not unheard of. It could be just the fault of the battery. It could also be depending on the environment it was kept in too. He had a habit of dropping his a lot too, which didn't help. But if I did notice too that if they're not kept in a fairly dry condition, 'cause some people a lot of times they throw them in the car and then they take them into the school, or they take them, so they're in and out of temperatures. Moisture can start to build up and cause issues with them too. It's not real often, but it does happen.
Yeah, I've noticed.
The Dell
what-
laptops that were doing the same thing, and found what was happening was people leaving the laptop plugged in for so long and not exercising the battery, and those were the ones that were having where it would explode to the point where it was, split in the bottom case. We put a new battery in there and it worked fine.
How recent was that, Chris? You're talking about the overcharging, yeah? Because now they kind of have protections against that, even though you're not supposed to leave them plugged in. But was it fairly?
I think
probably as soon as November of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing is that I noticed that through being working in IT and stuff is that if you have a computer that has a laptop that has a trackpad, and if you get your hands near the trackpad and the trackpad reacts without touching it, that is an indication. In some cases, is an indication that the actual computer itself is about to die. Basically, like the battery related issue or something like that. The trackpads react very very weirdly to battery issues. I've read about that. It's a known issue with Dells. It's a known issue with HPs. And I don't think it's an issue with the Macs, but definitely with those two brand computers, because we use those for the bank. And we have a lot of people that call in. Hence the reason they want their trackpad disabled is because their trackpad's going crazy, and then we test them, send them to their on-site group to actually run tests on them sometimes, and they find out the battery's going bad, and that's the reason the trackpads are actually acting funky.
There are other instances of that though too, because I have a Inspiron 3567 here. It's been my test laptop for a couple of years now. It's got I really have hated the trackpad because I've always been used to using a certain way, and believe it or not, for 2 years I finally figured out how to work with this particular pad a little bit better. But it has sensitivity issues like that too. That if you just have your hand, your finger, just barely above it, maybe 1/16 of an inch above it, it'll pick it up. So I actually had to go in and adjust the sensitivity settings on the touchpad to kind of help prevent that. So, but I know that what you're just speaking of could happen too. My first thought when Nate was talking was that maybe she spilled something on it, because that happens too. A lot of times it could be even something more clear liquid, and you get just enough in there to cause just that little bit of stickiness, in the pads on the edge or whatever. And that's something that's almost impossible to clean out unless you completely disassemble it. And even at that, it's never a guarantee that it ever gets, especially if it's a syrup-based type,
Like
product.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it seems like you'll never get that off, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did find it very disconcerting, and also I was doing some reading because I thought I can't ever leave that, I want to read what else is maybe the cause of it. I can't just let that curiosity just sit there on my table. And I think I might drive a nail through it too, just for fun, but I haven't done that. What I was thinking though is, what I was reading, I should say, I apologize, was that if the batteries are stored at a above 80% charge rate or below 20% charge rate for an extended period of time, that can accelerate the degradation of the battery. And then then doing some further digging, I saw that there are some settings in like newer systems, like my EliteBook here has this setting. in the BIOS where I can set it so it doesn't go above the 80% charge rate for if you plan on keeping it plugged in for an extended period of time. I think that's interesting because I don't remember that existing before with like the lithium ion, like the 18650s as requiring that, or maybe they required it, they just didn't show evidence of that bulging, that gas buildup. I wonder if maybe the lithium ion in the cells are more durable than the lithium polymer. I wonder. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there because this is kind of a new issue from my perspective. So
I think where you see more of it, though, batteries are evolving, but I think where you see more of the problems with laptop batteries specifically is if people replace them and they don't buy OEMs and they're buying knockoffs. And those are where you really have the problems. Because like I said, there are some safeguards built into some of these machines now, specifically Apple, to hopefully prevent against that. Like I leave my Apple Watch on overnight, it's not like it's burning hot when I get up in the morning. It's, it actually will shut itself off of charge mode, until I get up, take it off the charger. And I think that holds true to some extent with the laptops, but you're right. You don't want to overcharge something either, in the sense that if you're constantly running off of, the wall power, your cord all the time, the batteries now years ago they used to develop memories. Now it's not so much that, it's just it will eventually, like you said, shorten the life of the battery more than anything else. The physical damage, who knows? I don't know if there's any specific reason for some of those.
to me it's just really interesting. And Max Henny in the YouTube chat, he said that you can configure TLP to stress your battery while plugged in by letting it run off battery to a percentage, then topping it back off based on the schedule.
Don't do that.
Mm-mm.
Don't do that. Don't do that. That is really bad. How these new batteries, these lithium-ion, lithium polymer batteries work? They have they have cells, and certain amount of cells die when they are charged and discharged from 100% to zero number of times. Some cells will die, and reality. So basically, and it's basically if it has, let's say, 10 for 10 charges, I mean 10,000% or 1,000% of value it can be charged and discharged. So
if you can set a schedule, though, if you could actually set a schedule,
it won't. Reality is you will damage the cells no matter what, because you are damaging said cells because you are discharging them. You should be discharging them less and less if possible if you're running from wall, because that way you will damage the cells, and you damage the cells even by just letting them stay, because naturally
so then what's
discharge.
The answer?
Answer is if you can unplug the battery. If you
a lot of batteries are built into the computers at this point, where you have to take them, you have to actually disassemble them.
If you can't, sorry, that battery will sooner or later die. Normally batteries have enough cells to last standard amount of time. The time they are rated for about a year. They have because they actually have additional reserves. You're actually not exposed to from start. About a year and a half, you're gonna have standard amount of time they're used. But of course, there is from heat and many things.
The lithium polymer cell that I replaced, or battery pack, has 3 cells, and they're in series to get that 11.1
volts.
Those
are different cells. So
that's
those cells are actually built out of cells. Like battery looking cells. You mean? Those are technically just built components. Each cell is then built of those small cells, which then get damaged and so on. I have only skimmed the surface of how batteries work. These lithium polymer, lithium-ion batteries. What I read is it's all different.
I'm actually a bit of a battery enthusiast. So the chemistries that are more stable, more durable, more resilient. Lithium iron phosphate, which we don't use in batteries in laptops because they are not as energy dense, but you can get 2,000 cycles out of them. And from what I've read thus far, lithium-ion batteries degrade over time, and they degrade by usage. They also degrade when outside. Yeah, so So it's better to actually discharge and recharge them. The very
Yes.
opposite of nickel cadmium batteries, which had to be fully discharged and
Yeah.
recharged. So
Yeah, it's like with iPhones, for example, or iPods, iPhones, and that kind of stuff. They say because of the type of the batteries they use, we can.
the lithium polymer.
When I worked for Apple, we could test them. We can run diagnostics on them and find their life. Now they got that part of the iOS thing there, so you can actually check your battery life. But it is recommended to actually let them do not charge your iPhone or iPad. I'm not sure about Macs, but the iPhone and iPads do not charge those until they reach 30% or below battery life. That way, it doesn't drain the battery as you get more usage out of the battery than
that is wrong. That is wrong. How at least how most
that is from the Apple engineers, so I doubt
that is wrong.
Now, what
Everybody
I have also read,
who knows anything about lithium ion and lithium polymer batteries tells me you should when it's at 50%, you should probably charge it because more you discharge, more heat you will produce when you charge, which is actually more damaging than usage or discharge. Heat kills lithium-ion batteries. Sorry, Apple is Apple. Apple is wrong in every corner. So I'm not gonna say anything.
Not to
more.
cause.
I would say don't apply for. If you apply at Apple, leave that part out.
Apple is actually wrong about everything. They are insane, and I don't know how they're able to survive as a business when they
because they're shiny.
Such insane. But even that's starting to fail for them.
So according to DeWalt, I use cordless power tools a lot for a lot of things that I do, and according to DeWalt, like the studies that they've shown on their battery usage, well, they have some limits on it. They don't let it go so far low or so far high. They have some limitations on there, but according to like the energy input for how much is stored, the first from 0% to 20%, you're applying a lot of energy and not getting a lot of storage. From 20 to 80% on a lithium ion cell, that's actually your optimal as far as charging discharging range. And above 80%, you're putting a lot of energy in and not getting as much storage.
Yeah.
So in that range is where you want to keep it, which actually then falls in line with what I see HP and Dell doing in their BIOS, where you can set it so it stays below 80% in the charge rate, which also seems to correspond with some of the other studies that say when don't discharge your battery too low and store it. Don't fully charge your battery and store it. So
there's one thing that's
you
being
should never
forgotten
beyond 80.
Where Apple's concerned, it's called planned obsolescence.
That's the biggest thing. There's a reason they have until 1 year. There's a reason they have warranty of 1 year.
Yeah, well, and they got, and I'm sure they're not the only ones, but that's why they got caught and had to replace all the iPhone 6 batteries and whatever. And the sad part is I was part of that. I had zero problems with my 6 and until, my wife started complaining. It seemed like hers wasn't holding the charge. And then they forced you, keep pushing you to do the updates. So I finally started doing the updates. All of a sudden, mine wouldn't hold the charge. We go replace the phones, and a month after we replaced the phones, we find out that they had this battery that they said, we were doing it to help preserve the life of the phone. And it's like, who knows what you're being told, huh?
Yeah, they were doing they were changing the processor speeds or something like that to change the battery life and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And so, and just pay attention to when there's a new release that comes out, how many updates you start getting in your phone. And it's usually around the fall when they do that.
So we're at that time.
Yeah.
We're at that time of the evening when it's time to say goodbye and go away, and it seems like goodbye is such a hard thing to say. So I'll go around the horn for one last run. It's from a Muppet song, saying goodbye, going away. Anyway, Vince, what's your last word?
Oh, am I first up? Wasn't ready for this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you again, Nate. I know you said you're very nervous with this going on, but it was
that things will go wrong,
excellent.
And I look like an idiot.
Not again. Nah. Well, things
More
go
of an
wrong all the
idiot.
time for everyone,
I
right?
know. Yeah,
So
it's true.
yeah, it was great. So thank you so much. I just wanted to mention I saw an awesome live stream, and Monica might be able to fill us in a bit more about this yesterday from the Ubuntu desktop team,
Yes.
the Indaba. It
Indaba.
was an awesome initiative that I thought has been, well, it's been a long time coming. I think, did they used to do something like that before, and this sort of dropped off the radar and it came back?
And we're running it on the same channel. We had to go. We had to do some hunting to get the passwords for the Ubuntu on Air channel. But I will. Oh, you guys have no idea. I will drop a link to that. But that is something that we are going to be doing on a regular basis, not just with the desktop teams, but with other teams in Canonical. So if you like, please subscribe to that channel. And also, if you are on the discourse, let us know about some of the things that you would like to see. Because the community team, we are officially rebooted. We are back, and we want to be having so much more engagement like this. So it was a really great thing.
I mean, because besides this here now, that was the other highlight of my week. So thanks very much.
Yay!
Well, thank you, Vince. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you being here. And those gentle Australian ribbings that you give are always welcome.
Thank you, Nate.
Peter, it's nice for you to join tonight. Last word.
Thank you, Nate. I've been off video chats for a while because I'm medical leave. I'll leave it there. But I'm glad to be back. Had a good chat with Monica yesterday, actually, on the something called the Bugcast. So check that out. Check out the Bugcast podcast. Good friends of ours running that.
Oh,
I'm
excellent.
still using Solus. I'm also using PC Linux OS. And I've been having fun learning FreeBSD.
Ooh, very cool.
Ooh.
I think that's great. You're learning other stuff, and you can absolutely bring up anything about FreeBSD or anything you learn on here. I think it's good for us to learn.
One thing we talked about ARM chips earlier. I noticed that FreeBSD with release 13 have now moved ARM64 to tier 1 processors. So
it's interesting.
They're developing for it.
That's cool.
Your last word's coming.
Your last word's coming. Starbuck. That's not your name, is it? It's actually Starbuck?
Yeah, that's my last name. Is actually Starbuck.
Oh, okay. Actually, I know a Starbuck. But anyway, go on. I'm sure you're not related.
Well, we've got to be pretty distantly at least. But anyway, I'm just glad this is going back on again. I missed, again, having these chats. I joined the Steve's Very Own channel usually on Sundays when I can, just to get a little bit of, the community vibe going there. And it's definitely great to see all your faces again, to hear all your voices, to see what's going on in your world of Linux or tech in general, whatever the case may be. And it's just really, really great to be back, and hopefully we can keep these going. And Nate, you're doing a great job. You had no reason to be nervous. Excellent work.
Well, you're too kind. Well, I was nervous that the technology would, bite me. Eris, last word, bud.
Thank you very much for the show. Happy to see the show keep going, and see you next week.
Excellent. Thank you. Monica, so glad you joined us again.
Me too. It was so. My last word, hirsute. Yay! Congratulations to all the people who put in so much work to make this happen, and also congratulations in advance to everyone on the Fedora team for Tuesday. Just that it's so much work, and if you all know anyone who contributes to Ubuntu or Fedora, make sure they're getting sleep, they're hydrating, they're taking care of themselves, because chances are they're probably not. So yes, care and feeding of open source developers and contributors. Great to be here. I look forward to being back with you all a lot more often.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Thomas, last word. or phrase? For you, it's more of a phrase than a word.
Well, thank you, Nate, for doing this yet again. I enjoy it every week. Sorry for the air issue. I kind of forgot I unmuted.
You know, these
was
things happen.
dusting my desktop. Other than that, congrats to the Ubuntu and Canonical teams for another great Ubuntu release. Onward to 2110. Yay.
Woohoo!
Awesome.
Gonna be here before.
Yeah.
But
that means that
yeah.
summer's over.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Oh.
But it'll happen either way.
Right. Well, thank you. Joe, thanks for joining tonight. It's good to see you. Last word, if you have one.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you're natural with this from your little cave down there. You look like you do a fantastic job. I know you always used to be in the dark before, kind of in and out and baking cookies.
I actually forgot to turn off some lights, so whoops. But
no,
anyway.
you're fine. You're fine. I'm just did a great job, so I appreciate it. The one thing I did want to just briefly mention, and Vince will know what I'm talking about because he posted a link in there, was something about a story related to Canonical earlier this week in Telegram, and I clicked on it, and then of course it pops up with asking you about the cookies thing, and so I clicked through, and I didn't want to turn them on. I have them off for a reason, and hit save, and that was it. And every page I went to, I had it. So I kind of got on a little bit of a rant because as much as I love what Canonical's doing in Ubuntu and all these other things, and I'm very supportive of it, I always feel like that's part of the vacuum of Microsoft, because they're getting so close. And now all of a sudden you go to their website and you're getting these forces of, we want you to accept all the cookies so we can, whatever information they're tracking. I'm not as worried about them, of course, as if it was Microsoft, but it's just that annoyance. And that's just some feedback for anybody. And I don't think that that's necessary to be doing that because again, we've had discussions about how we feel about Microsoft, and we have our concerns about what may or may not happen with the interminglings or the business that's being done. We'd like to believe it's all positive with Canonical, but when I start seeing little niggles of things like that happening, okay, are they going down that path? So I hope that's not the case. But that's, sorry to take a longer last word, but I did want to mention that because I didn't know if anybody else experienced that too and was just a little frustrated by it as I was. Other than that, let's end on a good note. We're happy.
Just very quickly, I don't think it's really Canonical or Microsoft to blame. If you want to blame somebody, it's probably the EU with the GDPR. Just
blame EU, blame GDPR for cookie. They will add the disclaimer just to be safe, so GDPR doesn't go and hammer them. That's the reality situation.
Okay. And maybe that's just my ignorance.
Oh yeah, no, because those GDPR penalties are legit
huge,
awful. They're enormous. So basically, it's a CYA thing.
Okay.
Well, they're annoying to anybody but the companies they're actually targeted at, because the one that actually targeted at will pay without a problem. Others, not so much.
And see, that's part of us as the general population who, as much as we're geeks here, and I'm in the senior citizen range, as you know, and I still call myself a geek. I don't know everything, and with something like that, it's just it's understanding and having a good explanation. And you did say that earlier, so I just didn't know. Again, it's maybe it's part of my ignorance on that part of it too. But I just want to feel safe with the inner workings between the two organizations, because I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust Microsoft 100%, especially from where they came from. I hope that I enjoy, like when I saw today they talked about the GUI with WSL and all that stuff. So it was interesting stuff. I think there's some good things happening. I just hope that it stays on the right path.
Yep.
And thank you.
Yep. And thank you very much, Joe, for being here. I do appreciate you hanging out and being part of this. So it's great. Thank you. Chris.
Hey, well,
Fedora for life. Besides that,
Fedora for life, yes. But I'm just glad I'm on the road to recovery, and looking forward to having the house rehab so I can get start streaming from my office rather than
Cool.
trying to do everything off my phone. So
Excellent.
other than that, everybody just keep playing around with this stuff. That's how we discover and innovate and stuff like that. And, one of the tools that I have become reliant on is looking at if you're running a system D system, open a terminal window and just do a journal CTL -F. You can find a whole lot of problems before they become real big problems in there. So
Excellent. Well, that's something I don't do. Maybe I should. Well, thank you very much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Hope to see you again real soon.
I plan to be here next week.
Kai? Is it Kai? I'm sorry. I don't
It's
know.
Kai.
Kai. All right.
Yeah. So I'm happy
except-
to start coming back to this stream a little bit more often because it's been a while since I was last here. And also, it's kind of weird being here now because I'm not really a Linux user anymore. I use FreeBSD and OpenIndiana a lot more now than I use Linux. So when when I saw Peter hold up that FreeBSD book, I'm like, I fangirled for a moment. I just kind of had to. I was really excited.
Cool. No, there's nothing that says you have to be a Linux user to be on here. I mean, I think that'd be
right now. It just feels weird because everyone else is. But thank you for having me on. I love being here.
But people are, people use what they use. Windows, Mac,
Yeah, fair.
Linux,
Fair
whatever.
All of it.
We're just so there's the rules are Linux, technology, and open source. So if it falls under one of those categories, it's fair game.
Fair enough.
It's like we're just it's like we're in the break room, having a chat. Big pod. You've always got something to say.
Well, like Eric for now, still looking for a job, still trying to do YouTube. So yeah, actually, in next few weeks, I should be on YouTube. My videos should be looking a lot more professional, a lot better, because I will actually start trying. So there won't be just a silver, gray background, but an actual graphics. Ooh.
Well, I'm excited. And make sure you when you release a video or something in the BDLL Telegram, make sure you share that you did, and tag me, and then we'll. I want to make it someplace that we can share our passions.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank everyone for joining, not only in this Jitsi meeting but in the YouTube stream. I want to thank Rocco for starting the BDLL community, the openSUSE project for the use of their Jitsi server, and everyone involved in the entire stack of making Linux and open source tools possible, for not only for us to have this conversation, for us to have fun with our technology and make computers personal again. So Linux truly does put the personal back into personal computers. So until next time. Oh wait, you know what? Actually, hold on, one real quick announcement. I keep saying next week. There won't be a BDLL stream next week, but the week following there will be. So there's some scheduling conflicts, and I cannot be here next week. But the week following, we will be here. So in 2 weeks, so that would be May 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I think is what we're doing now, EDT. I will see you then.
Okay.
All right. So see yous.
Bye.
Bye.
Night all.